So, no matter who you are, what you want to be, or what you want to do in life, we all start off in the same place, the womb. Now, while in the womb, we hear sounds such as the beat of our mother's heart, the murmur of her digestion, the constant beat of her breath going in and out. And many of these fluid, rhythmic sounds that we hear while we're in the womb are similar in both frequency and rhythm to that of the ocean and its waves. And this partially accounts for the human's predisposed attraction to large bodies of water. Now, water, in conjunction with the rhythmic natural sound of the ocean and its waves, are highly similar in both frequency and pitch to a human breath. A human breath has been culturally and scientifically proven to therapeutically reduce anxiety and encourage rational thinking. So one could think that if you surround yourself in an environment with constant sounds similar to that of a deep breath, as one could imagine, you would therapeutically reduce anxiety and encourage rational thinking. The mineral composition of water, while this isn't scientifically significant, I just think it's cool, that it is very similar to that of an ocean. So when we're looking out into this large, abstract body of water that we can't even really fathom, we're really looking to this grandeur of this large body that's not much different, at least chemically speaking, than the water in our cells and the blood in our body. Now, bringing it to a more individual scale, the human body as a whole is made of water. Roughly 90% of our body weight comes from water. And talking about our cells, they're roughly the same density as water, which is 1 gram per centimeter cubed, if y'all are wondering. And this is why we float, because we're essentially putting water and water, hence that floating thing. And water goes way further beyond any of this, and that as humans, and especially as students, we're always being weighed down by other people's actions. People are pushing us, high five, handshake, writing a pencil down, doing your homework. Bringing it to a physics level, gravity is going down on us as the floor is exerting a force upwards on us. So we're literally like a force sandwich. And especially as students, our shoulders can attest this, we have heavy backpacks that are bringing us down all the time. But when we put ourselves in water, all of that's left at the surface, and we can experiment with our bodies in a more natural state. I can personally attest to this sensory deprivation as I'm a competitive swimmer, and every day after school, as I go in the pool, it's almost like you're being transported to a different universe as soon as you're hitting the water. Your senses are just desensitized. I can't feel anything except for water gliding along my skin. I can't smell anything, or I drown. I can't see anything except for this aqua blur of the pool floor, and I can't hear anything except for these crazy sounds and bubbles coming out of my nose. And the significance in this comes that it allows me and many other people who engage in water-based activities to engage in mindful, meditative, reflective thinking. And that's very hard for a lot of people. When most people try meditating, they can get distracted by a vent, or their mind literally just wanders off, and it's very hard to engage in this thinking. But when you're in water, all of that's stripped away from you. Like literally your senses are stripped away from you, and you have to talk to yourself. And especially at hours at a time, this can be very therapeutic and help you solve a lot of things. So to analyze this kind of phenomena from a psychological perspective, in 2014, a marine biologist by the name of Wallace J. Nichols published his research, an idea he coined the blue mind. Now, in essence, Nichols claimed that there's a long-existing link between water and human happiness, which consistently traces back to a subconscious mental state known as the blue mind. Now, the blue mind is characterized by the mildly meditative state that is provoked through aquatic features such as ponds, lakes, rivers, fountains, etc., which not only produce a feeling of general happiness and life satisfaction, but also offer therapeutic benefits to both the mind and body. Now, Nichols' work also sheds light on our inherent ties to water, how water provokes the parts of the brain responsible for producing euphoria, and as I mentioned earlier, how water distorts our perceptual sight, sound, taste, and touch. And to see how our blue minds kind of affect the way we move ourselves and the way we carry ourselves every day, an app was created in 2011 called Mappiness. Now, Mappiness tracked the subjective well-being of nearly 22,000 participants across the United Kingdom. And in essence, each of these 22,000 participants received signals throughout the day that asked them what they were doing, who they were with, and on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy they were. These are the results. And You probably can't read them. It took me forever to understand because it doesn't look like what it is. But what you need to take away from this is that humans are more consistently happier in any outdoor environment than they are in any kind of urban environment. And we all could have probably guessed this. But what I find even more interesting, and what pertains to my research even more, is that out of all of these outdoor environments, humans are always more happy when they are near water. So to help y'all understand this, I want to do a little activity with you guys. I want you all to close your eyes and just imagine for a second that we're walking down a street in New York City. I'm going to play some sounds, and I want you to use all of your sensory details to truly try and imagine what we're doing. So as we're walking, what do you hear? What do you see? What do you smell? What do you feel? How do you feel? All right, you can open your eyes and look up. This might or might not be what you saw in your minds, but this is real-life footage from a walk down a street in New York City. Now I want you all to remember how you just felt in your mental state as you were walking. Now, rewind. We're going to do this again. And this time I want us to pretend that we're walking along a beach. Let's say Honolulu, Hawaii, okay? Let's pretend like we're walking along a beach in Honolulu. I want you to all close your eyes again. And just imagine for a second that we're walking. What do you hear? What do you see? What do you smell? What do you feel? How do you feel? All right, open your eyes. And this may or may not be what you saw, but this is footage from a walk along a beach. Now, these environments are in stark contrast. And 9 out of 10 people would say that they felt more relaxed while they were near the water. And they would say that while they were in the city, they felt words such as stressed, trapped, felt like they needed to leave. They felt chaotic. And through my research, I've tried to identify what these environments are that inhibit our blue minds. And I've created a term that I'd like to introduce as the gray world. Now, I define the gray world as any urban environment that's filled with an excess of external stimuli and a lack of natural settings. And I believe this is a fitting title for this sterile industrial environment that's usually created through the man-made infrastructure, which typically consists of concrete and rigid steel, which, when I say concrete and rigid steel, what colors come to your mind? Gray, right. And these dampen the vibrancy of natural colors. And in addition to that, you also have a bunch of completely wacko, unnatural colors. You have, just think about it. You don't go walking through the forest, and you're not going to find a rose that's quite that same holographic red neon hue of that stop sign. Or you won't find grass that's quite the same color as that traffic light. And in addition to this, there's also a bunch of external stimuli, such as billboards, traffic lights, text notifications, all of which release a series of neurochemicals in our brain. And these neurochemicals allow access to physical power and produce a feeling of exhilaration that's typically not available. But you can't blame your bodies for accessing these systems because they're necessary for survival, and they've been for ages now. Just think about even in our hunter-gathering days, as we were walking through the forest, picking our berries or whatever we did back then, and we heard grass shuffling behind us. We looked back, and neurochemicals came rushing down, and they said, you either need to run or fight the saber-toothed tiger in front of your face because you're about to die. But now, these same biological systems that we use to run away from life-threatening predators are being activated every time we receive a series of text messages. And hopefully you can see that something's wrong here, like really wrong. It produces an unhealthy burden on both our minds and bodies. And life just isn't really as joyful when you walk around like this all the time. Because think about how many text messages you get a day. A lot, probably. Snapchats, whatever it is. And warning, not all people love water and not all people hate the cities. That's okay, because I'd like to think that the blue mind exists on a continuum. On one side, we have people who use water for the sole hydration necessity purposes. These might be people who live in Detroit, who use water to do their dishes, take a bath, drink a glass of water with lunch, whatever. On the other side, we have people who not only use but rely on water to help fulfill a relaxed mental state. These are people who might live on a beach or who might have a lake or a fountain in their yard. And then in the middle, there's a small overlap of people who live in the gray world but are actively aware of their blue minds. This might be the person in Detroit who, whenever they get stressed out, takes a warm bath or goes to the city park to sit next to the fountain, or whatever it may be. And my hopes and ambitions with this project are to hopefully mitigate this growing space in between the blue mind and the gray world on this continuum, because ultimately that would result in healthier urbanization, where natural settings are preserved as we inevitably grow. But trends don't seem to be following this path. It's rare that one finds a large city that has the same serenity found in a beachside community. That just doesn't happen. And there are other factors for that too. I mean, there's traffic, population, commerce, whatever. But the differences should be noted, and I do think that mitigating this growing space would definitely result in a healthier lifestyle and would lead us to live happier lives. So with that, I just want to leave you guys with this. Help, step by step, this world inch towards a more stress-free environment. I want you all to realize that we do have blue minds. Whether you realize it or not, we all fall somewhere on that continuum. I want you to encourage friends, families, coworkers to encourage further research into the blue minds. I want you all to look into the sink, wave, oceans, rivers, ponds, toilet if need be. Look, realize what was, what is, and what is beyond us. I want you all to encourage a world of happiness, and I want you all to encourage a world of water. Thank you. Get your chance, do your dance, get your chance, do your dance, get your chance, do your dance.